On behalf of Burrinja's Board and Staff, for this Reconciliation Week, I'd like to acknowledge all the lands and traditions of the past, particularly those ancestral lands of the tens of thousands of years of the Aboriginal people that have lived here within these amazing environs of the Yarra River and the mountains here in the Dandenongs. I'd like to acknowledge traditions that have lived within the confines of the environment itself. Those amazing people who sang and told stories, keeping this land alive, keeping relationship with all creatures, and in particular with the forests and the vegetation. I'd like to acknowledge those relationships. But I'd also like to acknowledge the colonial invasion and the devastating impact it had on those ripped from the heart of this country, and the toll of that we are still to some degree experiencing even today. I'd like to acknowledge all of those that did survive. But first, I'd like to acknowledge those that lay in these lands, unnamed, but never forgotten. Those that don't have tombstones or markers, but those that we know were buried as part of that colonial intrusion. So I'd like to acknowledge those that were able to stand tall and strong in these lands, despite all that had been taken from them. Those that continued in their fragility to hold on to their traditions, their languages, their stories, their relationships, and the memories of that deep time ancestral tradition. I'd like to also acknowledge all that's been destroyed as part of that colonial invasion right across this city. The amazing creatures that we may never get to know, vegetation and trees that have gone and also never been named. I'd like to acknowledge all that has been taken and destroyed. I'd also like to imagine the ongoing elder tradition, those that have taken from the past and bring it into the present, those that continue to renew traditions, both within the complexities of the environment here in an urban setting, and those that take their traditions out into other places. I'd like to acknowledge that continual struggle to be Aboriginal despite that's all that's around us. And acknowledging all from the past, I'd like to acknowledge those elders who will take hopefully something from our dreaming into their own lives and produce within the future an eldership that continues the amazing traditions of the Aboriginal people of this place. Those elders that may not yet be born, but will one day walk these lands just as you and I walk these lands. In the terms of reconciliation, I'd like to acknowledge, I find it very complex to acknowledge that this is a shared history. It hasn't been, but maybe somewhere down the future, it will be a place of sharing, a place where Aboriginal people are held within the rights of the traditions that have been so long across these lands, and that together we will walk one day and share stories and speak to each other across memories as we remake those memories, as we remake this land. In the words of the Koori Heritage Trust, Gunokandana Korki, as it is reconciliation, as it is a time for mainstream Australia to reflect on the history and their relationship with the Aboriginal people. The Koori Heritage Trust images this with a light hand and a dark hand, reaching across the gap of centuries, shaking. So Gunokandana Korki, may we take each other's hand and share this journey. Waminjaka. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I think I'm handing to Jake, is that right?
Yes. Thanks, Auntie Janet, for a beautiful welcome to country. I'll try and keep mine short and sharp because I don't want to detract for such a beautiful beautiful statement. As a Potteridge Padway man, I would really like to acknowledge the traditional owners on the various lands on which we meet here today. I would really like to acknowledge the enormous amount of history on the lands that we all lay here today and pay our respects to elders all across Australia, both past and present. I would also like to acknowledge the traditional owners that we have here with us today and pay homage and respect to Aboriginal culture and history, as well as acknowledge the all other cultures that are watching this video here with us today as well. So thank you.
Thanks, Jake. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.